Hello everybody, welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I'm your co-host Mike Allen, as always I'm joined by
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and the 4th annual Shock-tober is concluding this week, and we decided to go out with a bang. And that's right, if you haven't guessed, we're obviously reviewing Weird War Tales, number 93, the first appearance of the Creature Commandos.
Yeah, obviously. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Everyone saw that coming.
Weird War Tales 93 from 1980, and the first appearance of the Creature Commandos. Michael, I had no idea this existed. I had no idea the Creature Commandos were a thing.
Really?
But you seem to be aware of them, that they existed?
Yeah, I never read this before, but of course I've read Who's Who cover to cover.
Oh, I always forget that. Yeah, I always forget that.
Yeah, so that's how I got exposed to all these obscure DC properties like Creature Commandos, which I've always wanted to read about, and so now I can check that off my list.
All right, so just a quick thing here for the kids at home. Creature Commandos, it's basically Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman, but they're in World War II. Right,
and they have funky names.
Yes, we'll get into that. They have weird names. All right, Weird World Tales actually ran from 1971 to 1983, 12 years. 124 issues of Weird War Tales. And basically this is a war comic, but all the stories have weird paranormal angles to them. It's an anthology, another anthology book. We've been big on the anthologies here for Shock-tober this year, 4 anthologies. But so it's like all war stories, but they have ghosts or monsters or space monkeys or something in it.
Nice.
Right? Now, have you read a lot of Weird War Tales? That's just
Zero.
tough to say.
Zero.
Weird War Tales. Yeah, I've never read any of it either because it's DC. The other notable thing about that is Walt Simonson had his first published work in Weird War Tales issue 10.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something. Yeah, it's something.
Yeah.
They actually had a mini-series then in 2000. They rebooted it. 8-issue mini-series. Did you read that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I bet nobody did.
But you know, in between this story and that reboot, another character joined. I'm not sure if you came across her.
Yeah, Dr. Myrna Rhodes.
Also known as?
Dr. Medusa or something like that?
Well, yeah, Medusa. I just have her here as Medusa. So.
Yeah, well, she's a Gorgon, which is what Medusa was in the old... what was that? Was that Greek?
Greek mythology, I think, yes.
But that's like the lady with the snakes on her head.
Right.
So, yeah, she's must be tough finding combs.
Yeah.
Lady with the snakes on her head. But, yeah, she joins. I don't know when she joined. She joins during the original run of Creature Commandos.
Yes, definitely.
They were in issue 93 that we're doing here today. This is their first ever issue. And then I think they made 10 more appearances before the series ended with issue 124. Now, it wasn't in a row. It was just 10 sporadic appearances.
Okay.
Yeah. I think their next one might be like issue 98 after this, I think. So, there you go, Creature Commandos. I don't know, Michael, is there anything else you'd like to say about this before we get going?
I can only say that the entry for Creature Commandos in Who's Who is drawn by Jerry Ordway, and it's great.
Oh.
And it's just a shot of them running, and it's really cool. And it's also where I learned their very un-Universal Horror-esque names, which we'll get into, right?
Yeah, when they introduce them here. So let's look at the cover, 50 cents. Wow.
Yeah, 50 cents. All new number 93, November 25, action-packed, all new pages of incredible combat, Weird War Tales.
What's it? 1980. Does that seem pricey for 1980? 50 cents?
No, I think that's about right. They were going up every year, 50 cents, then 60, then 75. Yeah, so it's about right.
Yeah, this is Joe Kubert on the cover, right?
Yes. This is a great cover. The Creature Commandos are busting through a wall, and there's a bunch of Nazi soldiers down at the bottom pointing guns at them, and one of them's kind of screaming at, like, sort of the viewer. like looking, like pointing, like, hey, look. And at the top left, there's a blurb introducing World War II's weirdest warriors, the Creature Commandos. And we see all 4 members of the team there, and the Frankenstein's monster is holding a Nazi. And that's pretty much it. But it's a good shot. I like it.
Yeah, Frankenstein's leading the way. He's got a Nazi in one arm, and he's plowing through the wall. Then you got the Wolfman on his left, and on his right you have their commander guy. I forget his name, Shreve or something like that. And then you got the Dracula guy in the back. And yeah, so
I like it. Good cover.
Yeah, it's Joe Kubert.
And now also good color.
When we open it up there, Mike, we get like a splash page. There's like an intro. I guess these stories, I think starting with like issue 8 of Weird War Tales, they're all narrated by Death.
Cool.
And like each issue, he would be Death is depicted as like a living skeleton, and he's wearing a Nazi uniform in this issue, but he would always wear a different soldier uniform.
Ah, interesting.
throughout.
Okay.
So, but who do you think drew this picture here?
Well, there's a signature at the bottom that says RT.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be though.
It's definitely not Roy Thomas.
No.
Wow, I don't know. RT, I don't know. Well, wait a minute
Pat
here.
Broderick is the artist for the story.
Right, but how about this? Why don't I punch in Weird War Tales?
I went to DC Fandom and looked at it.
And you didn't, and it doesn't say?
No, it just has the cover artist and Pat Broderick and whatnot. So
interesting.
I thought you might recognize the
No. But if I think of it, I'll let you know. RT, huh?
Because it kind of looks like Kubert a little bit, like the line work. But RT, maybe he just signed it RT, the RT and Kubert.
Doubt it. But
yeah. All right, yeah. So it's a Death sitting there in a chair sewing a war. What is he sewing here exactly? A blanket, or what is he doing?
He's sewing. I don't know.
He's sewing something.
Yeah, he's sewing something. You're right. I don't know what though. Something red.
Yeah, and he just introduces the stories, kind of like your buddy Kane in the House of Mystery.
Exactly.
And then we get into the Creature Commando story, and this is written by J.M. DeMatteis.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I thought I knew, but I was wrong.
We've talked about him before on the show. I think when we did the Ghost Rider episode in year 1, I think it was J.M. DeMatteis. And Pat Broderick, we've talked about him on here. I think he drew the Invaders episode we did. But J.M. DeMatteis created the Creature Commandos. Like he had the idea, and he pitched it to editor Len Wein. And Len Wein said, "This is so silly and goofy, it just might work. Let's do it." And J.M. said he thinks Len Wein came up with the actual name Creature Commandos.
Really?
So how about that?
Interesting. It's something, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay, so you want to just jump into it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, oh my god. Every time I click, I get 2 ads. Okay. So with the splash pages, again, it's a typical DC splash page. It's more like a cover. It's actually like a scene from the middle of the story. And the Creature Commandos are bursting through a wall, shooting their guns, and we see a bunch of soldiers at the bottom.
Yeah, they do a slightly interesting thing here with this one. Obviously, this is just basically a recreation of the cover itself. It's like the same thing. And where the Creature Commandos are busting through the wall at you. But then later in the story, they have this same scene, but from a different perspective.
Right,
Even like the same line of dialogue. Because the Shreve says, "Okay, gentlemen, appears the time for discretion is past. We've got a wide open fight on our hands." Like they use that same line.
Right.
But in the other panel, we're seeing it kind of like from behind their shoulders as they're busting through the wall, I think. And,
smart. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's smart, but it's...
I like it. Intelligent. Anyway. High IQ it requires to think of that. Anyway. Okay. So here we are. We're at pardon me. We're at an army base, 1942. And we see a Jeep coming in. You know, this guy flashes a clearance badge, gets through the gate, and then we're introduced to this meeting. And the person holding the meeting is a guy named Lieutenant Matthew Shreve of the U.S. Army Intelligence.
And when the general guy flashes his badge to get in, it says Project M.
Yeah.
Security clearance.
Right.
Yeah, what could that M stand for?
I don't know. We'll find out.
All right.
And then Lieutenant Shreve, he starts talking about he says, I want to talk to you all about the dark realms, the underside of man's consciousness, the realms where we keep our personal monsters and mental chains. And then right away, this like general is like, now look here, son. Like he starts kind of like mouthing off to him, right? Like you're wasting our time, right? And so then Shreve is like, oh, I've got this new project here I want to tell you about, right? So then it's like the lights die, blackness descends, and then he starts explaining the origin of the creature commandos, and this is where the story goes off the rails. Page 3. So he talks, because I was expecting like a supernatural explanation for all these guys, but there isn't. You find out that there's one guy who's like the Frankenstein's monster, and he is just a guy laying on like a table. Oh, was this the Frankenstein's monster?
You're all confused. Yeah, you jumped ahead a little bit. Yeah.
What happened here?
Well,
oh yeah.
I always like when Michael's finding his way through the story. It's like a guy in a dark room just reaching around.
Well, yeah, it's like I just read this yesterday. I forget everything already. But yeah, they're showing the Frankenstein on the thing, but they're not talking about him. They cut over to Dracula and Wolfman, and he's talking about oh yeah, because that's what it is. He's flashing back to like the image of a Frankenstein monster like type image.
That first image, that's not really Frankenstein on the table. That's just a guy they were doing research on. They had his brain hooked up to wires and stuff. They're trying to figure out what images frighten people.
Yes, like the archetypes.
Yeah, and they found out that people were scared of vampires, werewolves, and like monsters like.
And monsters put together from different parts
so
of people.
All right, that's what we'll do then. We'll create a military division of soldiers,
right,
who look like these things, so that way the enemy on the battlefield will be scared,
right,
when they go.
So then they introduce. This is where they have the actual origin of these individual people. So the first one is Warren Griffith. And he suffers from lycanthropy, a condition that basically makes someone think that they're a werewolf. What a convenient thing for this team. Then we have a guy, and I love his name, Sergeant Vincent Velcro.
This name's terrible, Velcro.
I know, it's garbage.
They changed it later.
Did they?
To Velcoro.
That's right, I read that. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, do you know what Velcro? The guy who invented, I read up on Velcro because I was like, why would they call it Velcro? Like, when did Velcro come into being? Because when I was a kid, you remember like Velcro, of course, has the shoes. Well, I guess Velcro actually became commercialized in the late 50s, and a guy from like Switzerland developed it. And the name Velcro is a combination of velour and crochet. So vel from velour and crow from crochet, Velcro. That's
really interesting.
Yeah, so they knew Velcro existed when they named this character Velcro.
Yeah, that's what makes it worse.
Yeah, like I thought, well, maybe Velcro didn't become popular until like 82 or something. No. It was popular in the 60s and the 70s. Yeah, so they had to have known about it, and they still just named him Velcro.
Jeez, that's bad.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So, yeah, this guy Velcro, he, for 6 months, was injected with a compound composed of experimental chemicals and blood extracted from the New Mexican vampire bat. See, again, this is not fascinating to me. Like, to me...
I think this is great.
If I was writing this... I mean, we could talk about this later, but it'd be much cooler to be like, we found a werewolf, we found a vampire, right? And we...
I don't know, though. I don't know. We'll get into it later.
Okay.
But, yeah, so they made that wolf guy. They injected him with shit to actually turn him into a wolf as well, And then the vampire, they're injecting him with shit to turn him into a vampire. So...
Yes, and then finally, there was a Marine named Lucky Taylor. Look at that, another clever name, Lucky. Like, what the fuck is that? Anyway. Whose luck ran out when he stepped on a landmine. Aww. Yeah. And our surgeons worked for weeks on end putting Lucky back together again.
Yeah, they put him back together. Do you know what his name is later on? They call him something else.
No, what?
Patchwork.
Oh, well, that makes more sense, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So again, the general's all pissed off. What is this nonsense? Enough of this, right? And then he's like, and then the lieutenant's like, be calm, sirs. Be calm and behold the creature commandos. And the creature commandos come smashing through the wall.
That wall looks like it's made of paper.
Yeah, you're right. It's certainly not wood or drywall or plaster. You're right. It looks exactly like paper.
Yes, exactly.
So then they burst through the wall, and the general is like all pissed off, and he's like, you expect us to be fooled by some ludicrous Hollywood costume job? And so the creature commandos are so pissed off that they proceed to attack the general. And so
Velcro is the vampire guy.
Yes, the Velcro attacks him. He lunges at the general guy, and then the commander orders the werewolf guy, Griffith, stop Velcro, or get Velcro, stop him. So then the werewolf guy jumps, and then we see how effective they are in battle. He's immediately batted away by the Dracula guy.
Yeah, and he turns back into a human when he's punched. Velcro, he shows that he can turn into a vampire bat and then into a human. Just to show, hey, this isn't some trick. This is the real deal, you know?
Right. And then the Frankenstein's monster guy comes up behind the Dracula guy and grabs him by the neck, holds him up, lifts him up in the air, and then throws him.
Yeah. But then they all calm down and they're friends again.
They're all pals. And now the general's like yelling at them, and he's like...
And the werewolf guy's back to being a werewolf too.
Yes.
Like Frankenstein throws Dracula in the first panel on the left, and then in the second panel they're all chums again. And the werewolf.
There's no in between. We should also point out Frankenstein is like 9
enormous.
Feet tall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like humongous.
So I guess this guy, they used extra parts to put him together.
Yeah, maybe.
Or was this guy actually 9 feet tall when he stepped on that landmine?
Good question. Maybe they'll explore that in a future issue. So the general says, these guys are all, reprehensible human dregs, and I hope I never set eyes on them again. And then the commander's like, yes, but don't interrupt me. I said I never want to set eyes on them again, and I meant it. But that doesn't negate the fact that they may be the world's most effective secret weapon this country's ever seen. So in other words, he wants to use them in battle, right?
Just don't ever let me look at them again.
Yeah. So they send them on their first mission into France. So they jump on a plane, and they're flying into enemy territory, and then they parachute out, and they land. And Frankenstein doesn't talk much, eh?
Yeah, he can't talk. His vocal cords, they didn't assemble him with vocal cords, they said.
Right.
But after they jump out of their airplane then gets shot down and crashes.
Yes.
So they watch all their buddies die. And Dracula's like, fuck him, who cares? I'm not crying. But then we see a close-up of Frankenstein, and he's weeping.
Yes, he has a tear streaming from his eye. So then, now they see like the castle like is in their sights. This is their mission, and so
there's some secret, top secret experiment going on at this castle in France, and they have to wreck it. Yeah. Right,
and so we see some Nazi soldiers standing guard, and then Dracula turns into a bat, flies up, and he attacks them, and he starts,
feasting,
making a meal out of their necks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then where the Wolfman attacks another one of the guards, like grabs him and smashes his face into the wall. And then we see that they've knocked out another guard as they kind of make their way through. And then they come into this open room. It looks like almost like a hangar or something, but it's just got guards all standing there. And then they start attacking these guards and, shooting and punching each other. They make their way past these guys and they smash through this metal door. And inside the door, it appears to be President Franklin D. Roosevelt just sitting there.
That's right, he's just sitting there.
Yeah, like, please, young man, there must have been a mistake. But then the commander is like, mistake my foot, you tin-plated phony. He starts firing his machine gun at him, ping, ping, ping. And then we realize, wait a minute, this isn't the actual Roosevelt. This is a robot.
It's a robot. It's a filthy robot.
And then they look over and they see these like, what do you call them? Like not tubes, but...
Yeah, tubes.
Tubes. Those tubes that keep people in. And we see duplicates of
Michael keeps people in his basement. He keeps
exactly. Eisenhower, Stalin, and Churchill. So it's like they're constructing a horde of these things, android duplicates, for the Nazis to slip in secretly. Think of it, the Allied nations being run by Third World Reich pawns. And then more Nazi soldiers come in, and they're like, well, pity you will not live to see it come to fruition. So then another fight ensues, right? Shooting, punching, shooting, punching. And then basically it's like, what? I didn't remember this. What does this guy say here? Who is this? I don't remember this part. The redhead guy. Oh, that's the commander. No, that's not the commander.
That's the werewolf guy. He turns back into a human.
That's right. He turns back into the regular guy.
Because he has no control.
Right.
Of when he's a wolf and when he isn't. So it adds a wild card.
So he's like, oh no, I can't change.
Yeah.
Pretty useless. So then the commander's like, Griffith, you have the rottenest timing. So then they basically escape. They run away. And then as they're running, the Frankenstein guy ends up hitting... Is that a landmine? I don't even remember.
No. Shreve, their commander, planted a bomb in the castle. And
right, yeah.
And he didn't tell anyone else. He just said, we got to get out of here quick. And so when they get out, the castle blows up. And then Velcro's like, hey, what the hell? You didn't tell us you planted a bomb. And he's like, well, I must have forgot. Whatever. Yeah,
so. Like, you manipulated us. And then he's like, you can call me all the names you like after we get home. And then I was like, oh, this is a great first act of this story. And then we see Death at the bottom, like narrating, there is hatred between these men. There is anger and resentment, but there is also the unvoiced thought that they have just begun to carve a new legend in the weird war. And I'm like, here we go, scene 2, and it's over. That was it.
Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about the Creature Commandos here for a minute, Michael. So after we're done with that, you would have preferred if they were actually vampires or werewolves.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because to me, it's kind of like, Suicide Squad is, you take criminals, serial killers, thieves, and you put them on a mission together, right? Like those Black Ops missions that no one else can handle. So to me, it would have been cool if the government found a real werewolf, a real
Where are we going to find a real werewolf?
Well, it's a horror story. Like a real, vampire, a real Frankenstein monster. Like, what are we going to do with these guys? I know. We'll send them into battle, right?
But I kind of like this way because each of these guys now has a backstory. Like Frankenstein, he's like a good soldier. He's an honorable soldier. He was a big hero in war. So he's an honorable, respectable fella. And then you got Velcro over there. He's a creep, Right. He's like a criminal. And what did they say he did? Well, he was just a murderer or something? Or why was he? Because didn't they say he was going to be in prison for like 30 years or something?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, so he's kind of a clown, He's not a good guy. And then you have the wolf guy who he's all oatmeal north of the eyebrows, because he thought he was a wolf man anyway before they did the injections. Right. So you got like a nice mix of inner conflicts,
Right.
Personality. Where otherwise, if he's just a werewolf and a vampire, it's like, well, they're just werewolves and vampires. But these guys have backstories, why they
backstories. Okay.
Yeah, like why they became these things,
That's one way of looking at it.
I think it adds a little extra level there. Now, I don't know the backstory of Dr. Myrna Rhodes, who becomes the Medusa lady. But she's a doctor, so I'm guessing maybe she was on the experiment team with M Squad, and she got like mixed up in it somehow by accident, maybe.
I don't know. I just think, you know what though? This is good because now I can make my own version of this and call it something else, right? Like I don't know what. Yes. Creature Commandos. I can call it Monster. What? Monster. What's an alliteration that begins with like another word that begins with M? A synonym for commandos.
Yeah, I don't know. Monster.
We'll think of something.
MASH.
Yeah, that's the only one I could think of too.
All right, so there you go. But I don't know. I kind of like that backstory. But so I don't know. The concept is obviously ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it.
Look at that. I think you liked it more than I did, it sounds like. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, the Pat Broderick art we've talked about him, it's not good.
It's not great. No, I mean, his line work is good, but his anatomy is all over the place.
Yeah, and everyone's flat and lifeless.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess because I'd built it up so much in my head, I guess for 30 years, I'm kind of
All
disappointed.
right, I guess that could be the difference. I had no preconceived notions that this was going to be awesome. I thought it was going to be terrible.
Right.
So then we go in and it's slightly better than that. I'm like, oh, all right, this is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's terrible, but it's a fun terrible. So, all right.
All right. Well, keep your eyes peeled for the Monster Mercenaries.
Hey, there you go. How did we miss
soon
that?
From Michael. I don't know.
Monster Mercenaries.
Yeah, Monster Mercenaries. There you go. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know about that story, but hey, maybe it gets better, eh?
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't.
We'll find out because we'll keep reading. Anyway. Okay, here we go. Now on to the next story because there's 3 more, I think, 4 more. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot.
This one. Oh boy, this is another good one. The ultimate weapon.
This is like a one-note story.
Okay, so this this story takes place in the a post-apocalyptic Earth. It's in the future, but it's kind of like we've reverted to the Stone Age because of a nuclear war, and we see like a little sign at the bottom: "Welcome to Goth." So I can only guess it's Gotham.
Oh right? Yeah, look at that! They're making a little joke there. Batman's dead now. I like the story already. But if you notice, we see like cars buried in the ground and shit. But like you said, we're back to the Stone Age. Also, it seems like all the women died.
Good point. There
are no women in any, just dudes in loincloths.
Right. Yeah. And so they're talking about. Have you any idea what sort of weapon the club people are building in there? So there's like club people. Oh wait a minute. There's like club people and
rock people.
And rock people. Yeah. And so we cut over to the rock people coming over like a cliff. 2 arms, grab your weapons. It's the rock people raiding the project. So then they start fighting, and then the rock people leave, and then we're left with the what are the first people called again?
The club people.
The club people. Yeah. And so then the one blonde guy's like, "Sir, we just repelled another raiding party of rock people. Well done, my friend. If they ever learned our secret, they could annihilate us." And then we see their terrible secret. We look over. I'm telling you, it's true. This weapon will revolutionize the art of warfare. And we see a wheel. Yes. And then I'm like, oh, cool. Scene 1. Okay, let's get... it's the end.
That's it's a 2-page story. That whole story is 2 pages. But here's what I don't understand. They're acting like this is some big thing, a wheel. Like this is some secret technology. So these other club people, they didn't realize wheels existed at any point? Like, they had cars. We see cars, like, right there in panel 1.
Good point.
Buried in a... Like, they didn't know, oh, what are those things on the bottom of them cars? Oh, they're wheels. Why can't we... I don't know.
Yeah, the problem is how long after... Like, plus there's skyscrapers in the background, so they still have access to all of the remnants of the, 20th century human race. You're right, so... Why wouldn't they know about the wheel? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I get what they're going for here, but yeah, it doesn't really work. But anyway. Hey, Michael, then we get an advertisement.
I was going to mention this. Yep.
Yeah, the 1980s cartoons on Saturday morning on CBS. And you get Mighty Mouse and Heckle and Jekyll, Tom and Jerry, Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner, Fat Albert, Popeye. Right there in the middle, though, Michael. Drat Pack.
Yeah, it's almost the same thing.
I know. It's like the Creature Commandos came to life. And Drat Pack is the same story, except they're not in World War II, basically. But it's the same kind of thing.
Interesting.
Tarzan and the Lone Ranger. Then they have like an animated at 1:30 p.m., 30 minutes in the news. What the fuck was this? It's like a cartoon of a lot of news stories. Is that
I think it's just actual news.
Oh yeah, it says live action.
Yeah, right. In the news. Yeah,
but the image itself is a cartoon image.
Yeah,
but it's controversial, hard-hitting reports on current issues directly affecting you. Throughout the morning, you'll receive brief commentaries on the action behind each week's headlines. That sounds terrible. Mm-hmm. If I was a kid, I was a kid in 1980. I don't remember this at all. And I would hate to have news updates during my cartoons.
It is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Now, did you mention the new Fat Albert show?
Yeah, I did real quick in passing. I mentioned
because I want to read this little tagline at the bottom. Fat Albert and the dudes are still doing it right, falling all over each other, but coming up tight. I love that. It's good.
Keep it tight. Yeah. Yeah, man, this lineup's pretty terrible, though, right? I mean, it starts off strong.
You know what? This is like this is a little earlier than I would have been watching, but I mean, obviously Bugs Bunny's good and Mighty Mouse is good, but
Yeah, Tom and Jerry. I'm a big Tom and Jerry fan.
yeah. Oh yeah, me too. I got a box set of Tom and Jerry stuff.
Oh wow, look at you.
Yeah.
All right. We got 2 more stories at least. So this next one, Rising Sun, written by Mike W. Barr and drawn by Nolly Zamora.
Yes.
Do you know who that guy is?
No clue. No clue.
So, is he one of the? Remember all those Filipino artists they had? Was that kind
Could
of
it
like
be? Yeah,
Zamora?
that could be. Yeah.
That might be. Who did the Rock and Club story?
That was drawn by
Kashdan.
Dennis Cowan art, George Kashdan writer. I don't think I've heard of Kashdan, but Dennis Cowan I've definitely heard of. He did a Batman story that we did with cousin
Dennis
Brandon.
Cowan.
Yeah.
Detective Comics 600.
That's right.
You wouldn't recognize this is early Dennis Cowan. Like that art looks nothing like Dennis Cowan's art. Like if you know
That's
Dennis
true.
Cowan from later on, you would never recognize it as that. But
That's true. Yeah.
All right, so Rising Sun. This was an interesting story, Michael, because it like paints the Americans as horrible people. You know?
Right. It is. Yes. It's almost like Twilight Zone-ish, right?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of all these stories, I guess, are, except for Creature Commandos, I would say.
Yeah, true. So basically, yeah, we have a bunch of people in a Japanese
internment camp during
Internment
World War
camp,
II.
yes.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of people don't realize this. In World War II, the Americans, the good guys, put all the Japanese in basically concentration camps.
Yes.
But we don't talk about that because that's not a popular thing to discuss.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I have never seen it portrayed in a movie or a TV show, ever. In fact, the reason I mentioned Twilight Zone is because there's an episode of Twilight Zone with George Takei where he plays a Japanese guy. You remember that one?
No, I'd never watched Twilight Zone.
Okay. Are you serious?
I mean, I've watched like 1 or 2 over my life, but I don't really watch it.
Okay, I'll stop right there. But I don't know if... I think George Takei's family was actually in a camp. And in this episode, he plays a Japanese soldier... Or no, a Japanese guy that just runs into an American soldier like in a weird attic. And it's just one of those episodes where it's just one conversation, but it's really, really creepy. It's good. Huh. Anyway, I'm sure that you can ask Cousin Brandon about it.
Yeah, Brandon, well, if he's sober, I could ask him. Yeah,
there you go.
You know about it.
So anyway, back to the story. So yeah, they're in this camp. It's called Rising Sun. And they're kind of walking around and they're talking. And they look over and they're talking about this older guy who is praying. And his name is... so he's the father of one of the guys they're talking to. And he's like, why is he praying? You know, he could get in trouble. He's like, yeah, he knows some may hate him for praying for Japan, but he doesn't care, right?
Yeah.
So then meanwhile...
But he makes it clear, though, you know, my father hates the Emperor Tojo as much as anybody. He loves the country that we were born in,
right.
But he still loves Japan, too, you know. So.
Right. So anyway, then we see the Americans, a guy named Colonel Simon and Sergeant Reynolds. And they come over and they're like, attention, you know, and they're like looking over. They've got all these Japanese prisoners standing there, like at attention, and they're kind of walking by them. And, you know, they're looking at them, okay, you know, dismiss. Then they walk back to the barracks or whatever. And then, you know, the one guy's complaining, I'm so tired of this. These yellow scum killed my son, Reynolds, blew him up. Right?
And keep in mind, these aren't Japanese soldiers who were captured. These are just Japanese Americans who were rounded up and forced into camps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, so then he's also complaining, this guy, Colonel Robert Simon, because he wants to get out of here, you know? He doesn't want to be here. He's like, this war could be long. There are spies everywhere, if you know what I mean. Yes, sir. So then we cut over to a communications guy who says that he's traced unauthorized radio broadcasts from this camp to a receiver off the coast, probably a submarine. And he's like, I'll alert headquarters. And then Colonel Simon's like, no, you know what? I'll take care of this myself. And in his head, he's like, this may be the opportunity I've been looking for. So then he talks to, what's the other guy's name?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's got, oh shit, what happened? I guess clicked away. He's talking to this redhead guy. And and he's like, you understand the situation, Sergeant? So now they're going to bring in Japanese people for questioning, right?
Yeah, they're going to interrogate all the prisoners to find out who is leaking these top secret information through illegal radio contact. So one of these prisoners has a radio with them.
Yes.
That seems weird that prisoners in a camp would somehow have a radio with them. But,
it is weird.
Yeah, it's like Hogan's Heroes. They're trying to figure out if Hogan has the radio.
Right.
So they're bringing in all that, and then they bring in the old fella to interrogate him. And by interrogation, they just beat the fuck out of him. That's the interrogation.
Right. They slap him around. Yep.
Yeah.
Like, talk, blast you. We can keep this up for hours. And he's like, enough, I can take no more, so he's got nothing for them, right? And then he's like, and then they're like, oh, get a doctor, Reynolds, he's ill. But then the old man falls over. The true evil will be exposed by the rays of Japan's rising sun.
Yeah, that's what the old man says before he dies.
Yes.
Mike, when he first walks in, they say, sit down, Tabushi. We have a few questions to ask you. I can answer them now, Colonel Simon. I have no knowledge of the matter you investigate. And then what does the other guy say to him?
We'll be the judge of that, Jap.
Yeah, I just wanted you to get that on record so that I can... Because through all these old World War II stories, I'm going to go through and cut off a big mix of Mike L. just saying horribly racist things.
There you go,
and then we're going to get Mike L. canceled at some point.
There you go. In the future. So looking forward to it.
But yeah, the old man dies, but he says that thing about the rays of the rising sun will expose the truth or whatever. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then the redhead guy's like, well, even if we can't find the spy ourselves, we can always claim the old man told us who it was, and who will be the wiser. Yeah. And they're both smiling.
Yeah, this story, man, it's they're making the Americans look awful.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Good old Mike W. Barr, right? Of Outsiders fame. Anyway, so they have a little mini funeral for the old man, right? And then the son's like, oh, he's like grieving for his father. And then he's like walking around, and then he's like, I better sneak back before morning roll call. He's like, wait a minute, that mound of earth, as if something has been buried in haste. And then he digs it up. What? A radio transmitter? What the? Then all of a sudden, the American soldiers come across him. Stop! You see, sir, I told you the spy would eventually try to use the hidden transmitter I found. All we had to do was wait. So then they run after him, and then this Japanese guy starts running away, right? Yeah. And then he gets confronted by the redheaded guy who
What does he say?
Wait, hold on a sec. He says, what does he say? Don't move, Jap, or you'll die right here. And, so I just want to confirm the redheaded guy is the sergeant.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's the sergeant. Anyway, so cutting back here. So he's like, good work, Sergeant. The other guards should join us in a few minutes. Well, I've got him. He's the spy who's been transmitting troop placement info to the Japs. And then the Japanese guy says, wait a minute, how do you know the exact nature of the information being transmitted unless you are the real spy? And the redheaded guy goes, yeah, Sergeant. The broadcasts were too short to tell exactly what was being transmitted. How do you know? And your answer better be good. And he's like, blast you, yellow Jap. Blast you to Hades. Sure, I'm the spy. When I learned my transmissions were being traced, I hoped to blame it on the prisoners and make a clean escape unsuspected. But now I'll have to kill you both before the guards can find us. And just when we think the story's over, what happens? Well, even though it's the middle of the night, some rays of sun come up over the horizon, right? But not from the east, from the west, from the direction of Japan. Yeah. And then they start burning this guy basically down until, they start burning his flesh until he's just a skeleton, right? Yeah. And then the skeleton falls over and he's dead. And then the other guy's like, oh, good heaven, Masao, I've treated your people very badly, but I'll make it up to them. I only wish your father could know. And then the Japanese kid looks, he's like, perhaps he does, Colonel. My God! And they look, and in the sun, we see a vision of the old man's face.
Yeah, and the sun looks like the rising sun of the Japan.
Japanese flag, yeah.
And his face is there in the sun. This story was fucked up, man. I don't know.
Well, it's probably the best of the bunch, but...
Yeah, but it was super racist and just...
the
weird.
Characters were racist, but...
It was just weird, though, the angle they took on this, But hey, at least they're shining a light. The truth of the sun is shining on a despicable portion of American history.
Exactly.
They're saying, look at this. Yeah. So.
And the art is actually pretty good in this.
Yeah. Who did you say the artist was?
His name, Noli, I've never heard of him, but his name is Noli Zamora.
I think it's an N, yeah. Yeah. It looks like an H, though, but yeah. Noli Zamora, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard of him.
But it's good art. Yeah. There you go, another Twilight Zone episode.
Yep. One more story to go.
Here we go. I have no idea what happened in this one. Life hangs by a thread. Story
you don't remember it at all?
I'll remember it. I'll figure it out as I go. Carl Wessler, and the art is by Vincent Alcázar. And again, this art is actually really good.
It's very similar in style to the last one, and I think because we talked about this before, but DC they would hire. Who was the guy who would get all the artists from the Philippines? He would. He was like their contact. I can't remember.
I'm not sure, but
there was one artist who was like a contact man for all these other artists.
There was Esteban Morado was one, and then I can't remember the rest. But yeah, you're right.
It's a similar style,
right,
to the last guy. So I'm guessing that's maybe they all came from like the same artist studio over there.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh yeah. Okay. So now I remember this one. Okay. So we see a soldier. He's opening up a letter, like an envelope, and it's got a teddy bear inside. And he's like, "So I send your lucky teddy bear to bring back my baby boy. Love, mommy." And then this other guy's like, "Liar! Baby and mommy are not in that letter. Give it back or I'll take you apart, Herbie." So these guys are making fun of this guy who's got a teddy bear in the mail from his mother.
Yeah, his mother sent it for good luck, you know?
Right.
Here's your teddy bear.
Right. So basically the point is that all of these pilots all carry something for good luck, right? And so the one guy's like, "Why not? Every man carries something for luck, Eddie. You saw my death's head. I wouldn't fly without it." And he holds up a little skull. And so then
there's another guy with like loaded dice in his pocket.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so then they're all kind of just hanging out. And then they're like, "Okay, well, admit it or not, Eddie, having that fuzzy brown kid's toy in the cockpit makes you know you're safe." So we see this guy flying in his plane with a little teddy bear like behind his head. And
his commander tells him, "You're going to fly with that teddy bear."
Right.
Like, this is good luck. It's a good luck charm. We all need them. You put that teddy bear in your cockpit and let's go.
Right.
So, yeah.
And then the narration's like, "You came out of it shaken, but okay. And you can break out in a cold sweat when you see how close it was." And then the guy's like, "I don't see how that nip missed you." And it had to be with the help of your little brown friend. But he wasn't lucky for himself, Chuck. Look at him. And he points to the teddy bear, and we see that the teddy bear caught a bullet, right?
Yeah, the teddy bear saved him by eating the bullet.
Right. So then he brings it to this nurse to sew up, right? And he leaves the teddy bear with the nurse.
He doesn't want to, but he wants to leave it with her to get repaired, but she says it might take a while, and he has to go fly. So he's like, she starts kind of making fun of him, like, "Oh, you need your lucky charm," and he's like, "I don't need it. I'll just pick up my teddy bear when I get back. I'm a man, I don't need a fucking teddy bear." So he leaves the teddy bear there to get stitched up, and he goes to fly, and his commander takes issue with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So then,
what does his commander do, Michael?
So he punches him in the face. He clocks him.
He knocks him out.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "You're going to fly without your teddy bear? Fuck you." Bang. Cracks him right in the face.
Right. Yeah. And so that guy's like knocked out. Like he's down for the count. And he's like, and then he's, and by the way, the guy who punched him, his name's Chuck Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
Like the shoes, right? He's like, "Chuck Taylor, I'm going to knock the stuffing out of you when we get back."
Yeah, Chuck Taylor and the other planes have already taken off. And so this guy wakes up and he's like, "You son of a..." And he gets in his cockpit and he takes off then. And they engage in a big dogfight up in the air there, Michael.
Right. So they're shooting back and forth. And then we see the one guy, so he's getting shot at, and he's like, "Look, my foot. If you can outfly your enemy, that's all it takes." So his whole point the whole time is there's no such thing as luck. He doesn't need a good luck charm, right?
Yeah.
And then just at that moment, he looks over and Chuck has been shot. "Chuck, oh my God, Chuck, bail out." But then Chuck is getting shot up by the enemy, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. Chuck is his plane's going down, but then the next panel, it's
oh yeah, that's right. That's a nip. That's a nip getting shot. Sorry.
this real racist terms of Mike L is going to be like 30 minutes long. Just nothing about Mike L saying a horribly racist thing. It's going to be amazing.
So then the rest of the Zeros pull out of the fight and they fly away. And then the guy's like, superstition my eye, I'm making it home safe without my stupid teddy bear. But poor Chuck is gone. Good luck, charm and all. No wonder that nurse laughed at my teddy bear kid stuff. Good luck, bad luck, hokum. I'm okay. But Chuck, but then suddenly you see something in the cockpit you didn't notice before, Eddie. There's a tightness in your throat and tears well up in your eyes. You choke. You saved my life, Chuck. He realizes that Chuck left his death's head for this guy to protect him.
Yeah. Yeah, so good old Chuck. He knocked him unconscious, gave him a possible brain injury. But then he's like, you know what? I'm going to leave my good luck charm in his cockpit so he'll be safe.
That's right.
And I'll take the risk. And then Chuck died.
Yep.
So what about Chuck, man? What a guy. I would have just made him go back and get his damn teddy bear. Like, no, you go back. You get your teddy bear. You go
right.
And that would have been it. But so, yeah, Chuck died to save his buddy. And then there's a letters page, APO Weird World Tales. I don't know what APO stands for.
APO, I don't know. Yeah, that's probably like Army terminology.
Yeah, anyway. I would imagine, but I have no idea. So there it is. That's Weird War Tales, issue 93, a historic issue because it's the first appearance of Chuck. No. The Creature Commandos.
Yeah.
So, again, those final two stories, interesting art. You know, the art was solid on both of those last two stories.
Yeah.
And they were both, they were like Twilight Zone episodes, you know, those last two.
Yeah, the last two stories were solid, you know, or what you'd want from something like this. But the 2-page story was garbage. And then I got to admit, the Creature Commando story I did not really enjoy, so big disappointment.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the art there. Pat Broderick, definitely an interesting style, but I'm not a fan of it. Mm-hmm. I like the Creature Commandos more than you, I think.
So that's shocking.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
When I was a kid, I loved them monsters, you know? Well, what do they call them? Those genre of monsters are like the film company?
Universal Horror.
Universal, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I had all the figures, the glow-in-the-dark figures, eh?
Yeah. I had in a little like, carrying case. It was like a house. Do you remember? Did you
no, I didn't have that, but you told me about that before. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was a big Wolfman fan. When I was like 4 years old, I went as Wolfman for Halloween. It was a big hit.
I think we talked about this, yeah.
Yeah. Every time there's a Wolfman on the show, I got to mention it. And I like glued a fur on my face, and I had those inflatable Incredible Hulk inflatable muscles, you know?
Oh, yes.
I inflated them. They're like shoulder pads, but they inflated your arms, and I put them up under my coat. And I was the Wolfman. Yeah.
Wow.
I had fangs. Yeah.
And now I told you that I used to dress up as Dracula, right?
No, was this like last week or when you were a kid?
No, this is 40 years ago. But the thing is I have blonde hair, so I had to add a black widow's peak in front of my blonde hair, so it didn't look right. Yeah.
So there you go, Creature Commander. So what do you give this, Mike L? The whole book, the entire book, the whole Megillah.
I mean, because the art in the last two is good, I can give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean that's about right. I'll go 6. Just for the,
Well, I can't believe this is the first time you've ever given me a higher rating on a comic I picked.
Just for the Creature Commandos, it's so ridiculous.
What's this world coming to?
So we'll give it a 6. It's terrible. Don't read it, but give it a 6. So there you go, the Creature Commandos. Now, Mike L, Shocktober's over now.
Yep.
So before the show. I right before we started recording, I realized, I got to pick a book because I totally forgot. We've only been doing this 3 years or so, and I forget these things. But I think next week we're going to go Squadron Supreme, issue 1.
Woo! All right.
We've talked about it many times before. Every time I've never read any Squadron Supreme. I know people think it's really good. Every time I think about doing it, though, I remember Mark Grunwald wrote it, right? And I'm never a fan of Grunwald stuff whenever we do Grunwald on here, so I'm like, that's probably going to be terrible. But, so we'll go Squadron Supreme, issue 1, just because I didn't have time to look up another issue.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. What I know about this comic is this is Marvel's answer to the Watchmen. Actually, it technically came out before Watchmen, like a few months before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week because I have some questions about that.
Okay.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, Squadron Supreme.
All right.
Another Shock-tober in the books, Michael.
There you go. 4th annual. Yep.
And this one was actually pretty good. You actually picked horror books because last year you picked like a Western and you picked something else.
I was trying to be funny last year. It didn't work. Anyway.
So this year is an actual Shock-tober.
Yes.
You think we'll make another Shock-tober?
Possibly.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. There you go. 4th annual Shock-tober wraps up. You can find every episode of Flea Market Fantasy at www.comicbooksyndicate.com. Each week we review a different Bronze Age comic book. 1 week I pick, 1 week Mike Dell picks. And until next Tuesday, disperse!